Everything changes in the trenches. You know, in the National Football League, games absolutely aren't won in the headlines. They aren't won in the luxury suites, and they certainly aren't won on social media. No, they are won in the dirt. They are won in the brief, violently chaotic collisions that happen in the absolute fraction of a second right after the ball is snapped. For the Indianapolis Colts, this upcoming 2026 season, well, it isn't just another year on the calendar. It is a literal ticking clock. It is a pressure cooker of the highest degree. We are talking about a defining moment that could completely and forever alter the trajectory of this entire franchise. Because the very foundation of this team, the absolute anchor of their identity, is facing a massive crossroads. And the countdown to that collision, it has already begun.
Welcome to NFL Nexus. Listen, we don't just sit here and report the news, we dissect the game. We uncover the tension, the massive stakes, and the absolute brutal reality of professional football. I'm your host, and today we are taking you straight to the front lines of Indianapolis. But before we tear into the defining story of the Colts' 2026 season, I need you to do something for me. Support NFL Nexus. Hit that subscribe button right now, like this explainer, drop a comment below with your thoughts as we go through this, and hey, if you want to take your support to the absolute next level, click that join button and become a channel member. Okay, let's dive into this, because what is currently brewing in Indianapolis is nothing short of a high-stakes war.
Section 1. Final Summer at Grand Park.
Every war requires a staging ground, right? A place where the troops assemble, where the game plans are painstakingly installed, and where human bodies are pushed to their absolute breaking points under the scorching Midwestern summer sun. For the Colts, that staging ground has officially been finalized. And let me tell you, the sheer velocity of this timeline is relentless. Let's look at it. July 27th, the rookies report to Westfield, Indiana. Picture it. They arrive wide-eyed, fighting for their professional lives, trying to secure a roster spot, stepping right into a crucible of NFL expectations. But then, the very next day, July 28th, the veterans arrive. And that, my friends, is when the temperature truly rises. The roster is united, the collision course is officially set. From that exact moment, they have just 2 short weeks before the violence goes on the road. Tuesday, August 11th, a joint practice against the New England Patriots up in Foxborough, just 2 days before the preseason opener. Now, if you know football, you know a joint practice isn't some casual walkthrough. It is an unscripted, highly combative proving ground. The heat is suffocating, tempers flare, and pride is literally on the line on every single exhausting rep. Fights break out, careers are made or broken in those one-on-one pass protection drills. Then, just over a week later, Wednesday, August 19th, another joint practice, this time battling the Atlanta Falcons. These aren't just arbitrary dates on a calendar, no way. This is the calculated timeline of exactly when a roster forges its identity through pure, unapologetic physical dominance.
But you have to understand, this specific timeline, this particular summer, it carries a heavy, nostalgic weight. This is a genuinely bittersweet conclusion. You see, the 2026 training camp marks the absolute final time the Indianapolis Colts will prepare at the Droplight Grand Park Sports Campus. Next year, in 2027, the entire operation packs up the whole shebang and moves downtown to the brand-new Indiana Farm Bureau Football Center. Grand Park has seen the absolute highest of highs and the crushing lows of the Chris Ballard era. Think about the history here. It was the staging ground for that magical 2018 playoff run. It witnessed the shocking, franchise-altering retirement of Andrew Luck. It saw the meteoric rise of Jonathan Taylor becoming the rushing king of the entire league. It has seen generational talents bleed and sweat straight into its turf. And as the sun sets on this era in Westfield, the pressure to leave behind a legacy of dominance is palpable. You can feel it. The Colts aren't just saying goodbye to a practice facility. They are permanently closing a complex, turbulent chapter of NFL history. And one man, more than anyone else on that roster, is determined to write the ending in pure violence.
Section 2. The Anchor Returns.
You simply cannot talk about the Indianapolis Colts, and you definitely cannot talk about the trenches without talking about the literal engine of this franchise, the defining force, Quenton Nelson. For the past few years, as the Colts faced organizational turmoil, those painful late-season collapses, and an endless, dizzying quarterback carousel, the national media narrative started to slip. Pundits on TV started to forget, but in the NFL, the tape never lies. And this summer, the violent reclamation of his respect has officially begun. 99. The NFL has finally unveiled its top 100 players list for 2026. This is a list voted on strictly by the players themselves, and making his incredibly dramatic re-entry into this elite club, sitting at number 99, is Quenton Nelson. Now, I really want you to feel the weight of this. Barely making the list, coming in at the absolute scraping edge of the top 100. For a player of his supreme caliber, a man who literally redefined the guard position when he entered the league, this isn't just a ranking, it is a slight. It's a stark reminder of how incredibly quickly the league can just turn a blind eye when your team struggles to string together playoff wins. Because incredibly, this marks Nelson's first appearance on this player-voted list in 3 long years. The disrespect here is obvious, and the data paints a very, very clear picture of how fleeting glory can be in professional football. Let's look at the numbers. In 2020, his peers voted him the 29th best player in all of football. The very next year, in 2021, he was 33rd. In 2022, he was 28th. He was an undisputed titan of the gridiron. He was the subject of countless viral clips just burying linebackers in the dirt, pulling across the formation with this terrifying, unnatural speed for a man his size. And then, a void. Nothing. Unranked in 2023, completely unranked in 2024, unranked again in 2025. Why? Well, because the Colts were a middling team trying to find their footing. Because offensive guards, quite frankly, don't get the primetime camera angles when the team isn't making deep, dramatic postseason runs. It is the ultimate curse of the interior lineman. You really only get noticed when you make a glaring mistake or when your team is hoisting a Lombardi trophy. But here is the undeniable truth of the film room. Quenton Nelson never lost his dominance. Not for a second. While the voters forgot all about him, he was busy stonewalling the absolute best defensive tackles in the world. He was busy quietly racking up 8 consecutive Pro Bowls. 8. He was earning back-to-back second-team All-Pro nods over the last 2 years. He didn't decline. His footwork didn't magically slow down. His devastating punch right off the snap didn't soften. The narrative just lazily shifted away from him. And now, at 99, the anchor returns. But true validation in this league doesn't come from some television graphic.
Section 3. Respect from the enemy.
True validation, the true scale of Quenton Nelson's monumental achievement, comes from the profound, unflinching respect of his fiercest enemies. It absolutely doesn't come from analytics. It doesn't come from pass block win rates on a spreadsheet. And it doesn't come from counting stats. It comes from the men who actually have to strap on a helmet, stare across the line of scrimmage, and figure out how to physically survive 60 minutes of football against him. When the NFL released the footage for Nelson's top 100 ranking, the testaments from his division rivals were nothing short of chilling. Listen to these words from Tennessee Titans superstar defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. Keep in mind, Simmons is a monster in his own right, a 2-time Pro Bowler, a physical freak who wrecks offensive game plans entirely on his own. Simmons said, "I know I need to bring my A game every time I line up against Quenton. He plays the game hard. Facing him twice a year for my last 7 years, he's been unbelievable. It's nothing but respect." Think about that for a second. Think about the sheer physical exhaustion and the intense mental preparation required behind that quote. Simmons is literally one of the most terrifying defensive tackles in the modern game. He tosses 300-pound men aside for a living, and he is openly admitting the psychological and physical toll it takes to face Nelson. When the ball is snapped, it is a 60-minute car crash between 2 immovable objects. It is a grueling, brutal matchup that commands absolute reverence.
And if you want to know exactly how the new generation views him, look no further than Houston Texans defensive end Will Anderson Jr., a premier edge rusher, a former Defensive Rookie of the Year who is already terrorizing tackles across the entire AFC. Anderson stated, "I've seen Q a few times, man. He's a master of technique. You talk about taking your craft to the next game, he has. He's powerful, he's smart, he's instinctive. He knows how to stay in front of you. He's one of the best. He's going to be a Hall of Famer too." Wow, a master of technique, destined for Canton. This isn't just generic, polite post-game praise. This is the cinematic mythos of Quenton Nelson being actively built by the very players whose exact job it is to destroy him. They study his tape, looking for a weakness. They look for a tendency, a false step, a slow punch. And what do they find? They find nothing. They can't break him. So, they respect him.
But you have to ask yourself, how does he command this incredible level of fear and respect? Well, it ultimately comes down to a grueling, unyielding standard in the trenches. The evaluations of his own teammates paint a vivid picture of a player who completely refuses to compromise. Colts tight end Mac highlighted how Nelson literally sprints to the ball carrier on every single play. We were talking about a 330-pound man in such elite, incredibly rare physical condition that he can sprint 20 yards downfield just to help his running back up off the ground, or to deliver one final punishing block to a trailing defender. It sets a terrifying tone. It mentally exhausts the defense to watch a guard outwork them deep into the fourth quarter. Linebacker Zaire Franklin pointed out his terrifying open space athleticism. I mean, just imagine being a defensive back or a linebacker, weighing maybe 210 pounds, backpedaling in coverage, and suddenly seeing a massive, accelerating offensive lineman pulling around the edge, running full speed directly at you in open space. It is, exactly as Franklin called it, a scary sight.
It forces defenders to make business decisions. And finally, as running back Trey Sermon noted, his sheer power and technique mean he plays to the absolute echo of the whistle. Actually, scratch that, he plays through the whistle. He does not stop when the runner is wrapped up. He will finish his block. He will aggressively drive his assignment straight into the turf. He is the ultimate tone setter, the relentless intensity that fuels the entire Indianapolis offense. But all of this dominance, all of this respect we're talking about, brings us to a very dark, looming reality.
Section 4. A high-stakes ultimatum.
The tone in Indianapolis right now is quietly shifting from celebration to massive, unavoidable anxiety, because all of this praise, all of this historic, game-changing dominance by Quenton Nelson is currently tied to a ticking time bomb. The franchise's immediate future is legitimately on the line. The 2026 season is no longer just about bouncing back from last year's late-season collapse. No, it is a high-stakes ultimatum for General Manager Chris Ballard and the entire Colts regime. We are looking at a collision of two unchangeable, terrifying realities. A 2026 contract year bleeding directly into 2027 unrestricted free agency. Every single time Quenton Nelson steps onto the field this season, starting from those incredibly grueling late July training camp practices in the blistering heat of Grant Park, he is playing for his future. Nelson's massive, industry-shifting payday is on the horizon. He is slated to hit the open market next year. Think about that. The Colts have a generational talent, a surefire future Hall of Famer, entering the final, brutal stretch of his current deal. The pressure cooker is completely sealed.
Prove it. Or lose him. It is exactly that simple. There's no middle ground here. If the Indianapolis Colts fail to put a winning product on the field, if they repeat the frustrating mistakes of the past and suffer another catastrophic collapse, why on earth would Quenton Nelson stay? He has given his body, his prime, his absolute all to this organization. If he hits unrestricted free agency in 2027, every single team in the NFL with an ounce of cap space will be lining up at his door with blank checks. Contenders will desperately offer him the chance to finally chase a Super Bowl ring. The Colts desperately want to keep him in Indianapolis until he retires. They literally need him. But they have to prove to him, right now, today, that sticking around is worth the physical toll. If he walks away, think about the devastating rebuild that immediately follows. It wouldn't just be the loss of a left guard. It would force a complete top-to-bottom collapse of the team's entire offensive identity. Think about their young franchise quarterback, whose entire development relies on a clean interior pocket to step up into throws. A rookie quarterback taking hits straight up the middle is a quarterback whose career is severely shortened. Think about Jonathan Taylor, the absolute focal point of the offense, whose rushing lanes will just vanish without Nelson displacing defensive tackles. Losing Nelson would be a catastrophic failure of asset management that could genuinely set the franchise back half a decade.
Section 5. The Nexus of the Season.
Which brings us full circle, doesn't it? This is the nexus of the 2026 season. The countdown to training camp, the brutal, exhausting joint practices in Foxborough and Atlanta, the sweltering heat of Grant Park, it is all directly, inextricably linked to the ultimate pressure of Quenton Nelson's contract year. Every single rep, every 20-yard sprint to the ball carrier, every violent block to the echo of the whistle, it all carries the overwhelming, suffocating weight of 2027. The Colts aren't just practicing for Week 1, they are fighting every single day to keep their franchise anchor from sailing away. So we have to ask the multi-million-dollar question. Will the ultimate anchor stay, or is this his final ride in Indianapolis? When the sun officially sets on Grant Park this August, permanently closing that chapter of Colts history, will it also be setting on the Quenton Nelson era? The ticking clock is incredibly loud, the trenches are waiting, and the consequences of the 2026 season, they will be permanent.
The drama is just getting started, and we will absolutely be here to track every single vicious snap of it. If you want to stay ahead of the narrative and truly, deeply understand the high stakes behind the game, you need to support NFL Nexus. Subscribe to the channel right now. Hit that like button to push this explainer out to more hardcore fans who need the real story. Comment your thoughts below. Do you think Quenton Nelson stays in Indy, or is he gone in 2027? Let me hear your detailed predictions. And for those who want the absolute ultimate inside track on everything we do, become a channel member today. Thank you for diving into the trenches with us. The clock is ticking. We'll see you next time on NFL Nexus.